The following program was funded through a grant from the Springfield Cable Endowment.
Today we're breeding killers, non-feeling, non-thinking killers. Because if a 15-year-old or a 13-year-old could kill and not think really about it, what does it say about us as a society? What does it say about us as a community?
In many urban environments, more money is spent on policing the communities than on educating the communities. More Black and Hispanic men are winding up behind bars than on college campuses.
Hey there, Mr. Man, walking all zigzag. What you got in your pocket? Bloodshot eyes, high. No one can stop it. Pardon me, miss. I wish I could help you out. 3 kids, a welfare check, a rundown house. I know what it's all about. Hey, yo, shorty, what's the deal? Packing a 357, skipping school. I feel for you, my brother, I ain't no fool. There's no escape. There's no escape. There's no escape. No denying. Kids dying. Mama's crying. Father's trying. Still buying. Getting high and babies multiplying. Not a black thing, Puerto Rican thing, soul thing, poor thing, funky thing, concrete thing, invested thing. It's a ghetto thing. It's a ghetto thing. It's a ghetto thing.
I picked up my real first drink around high school, maybe 8th grade. Me and a friend drinking a little bit here and there. And then one day I woke up and it was a job. It started out as fun, panhandling, at 16, 17, asking for change to go get a 40. I didn't think anything about it, I was young. And then it became real. Waking up, wondering where I was gonna drink, when I was gonna drink, who owed me money, who I could lie to, who I could cheat, steal, to get, what I wanted. When I was about 17, a friend of mine, we'll say, because I guess that's the proper term, introduced me to cocaine. He put in a cigarette, and I smoked it, and I fell in love.
I was at the point where, before I went to Hampshire, where I was thugging, straight thugging. Slanging stuff beyond all belief, you know what I'm saying? I got cars, I got loot, had girls, everything. When you're there, it's just very hard to get off of that track and get on something else.
As a young co-ed in the agricultural program at the University of Maine, Art Sirota was working toward fulfilling his dream of becoming a farmer. He spent his days training to be a licensed Babcock milk tester and winning blue ribbons with his prize Holstein named Roxana.
I would have bought a farm and been there happily ever after like John Walton, except for the Vietnam War. And when the war broke out while I was in college, that's when my conscience woke up. And I went through a long series of struggles between a draft versus going ROTC, and not being very much in touch with my conscience. I did go the ROTC route, and then went to law school, and then went on active duty.
While stationed in the Medical Services Corps at Fort Sam Houston in Texas, Art witnessed the tragic results of war from the incoming casualties. From that point on, he decided to dedicate his life as a lawyer to helping people get out of the military. Art headed to Massachusetts, where he was licensed to practice law and settled in Springfield because of its close proximity to Westover Air Force Base. Over time, Art began to represent less military and more criminal cases, while building one of the best acquittal records in the county.
I think in 17 years of law practice, I represented over 5,000 people in court. Did 25 murder cases, and became very clear, not too far down the road, that 80% of the people I was representing had dropped out of school. There were 1.6 million Americans locked up. 74% are Black and Hispanic, almost all are men. It's estimated that in another 7 years, that figure is going to double. It seemed very clear to me that if this situation was ever to turn around, then it was imperative that people be empowered through education so that people could participate in democracy, participate in change, participate in creating an economy which is just, and reach their potential in life at the same time. That's why I founded the Learning Tree.
In February of 1989, with a box of donuts, a GED book, and one student, Art Sirota opened the doors to the Learning Tree in an urban neighborhood in Springfield, Massachusetts. Art Sirota planted a seed that grew into a nonprofit, community-based educational organization dedicated to serving urban youth who were let down by the public school system and by society.
A lot of the students that we work with have had very checkered pasts. You know, a lot of the kids have come up very hard. There haven't been a lot of money in the households. People have been hungry, so they've had to do things that normal kids wouldn't do, whatever it is. And we never hold that against anybody, because like I said, it's not where you're from, it's where you're at. And by the time they come to the tree, they made a commitment to bettering themselves, and not only that, but also bettering the community. So we give them all the support that they need to make sure that they can do that.
As the tree began to grow, it was Art Sirota who tirelessly nurtured the program and its participants.
He used to pick me up from work at midnight and work with me, let me come to school, sometimes only just 2 hours, and leave, and go back to work. And he put so much energy and so much effort into helping me, you know, that I kind of believed in him like I believed in the drugs, you know. I kind of believed that things would be all right, you know, if I stayed where I was. When I got my GED, he promised me that he would get me in college, you know, and I had nothing else to believe in.
So I called Art, and I called him, I remember it was about 7:30 at night. And he said, can you meet me at 7:30 in the morning? And at that time for me, waking up at 7:30 was crazy. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, this guy's out of his mind. You know, I think I'm gonna be there at 7:30. I think he was just so surprised that I made it that early. And I think, well, I know now, that's why he asked me to come so early. He wanted to see if I was serious about what I was talking about, and that was getting back into college. So the first thing we did is we talked about why didn't I have my diploma? And he was so pissed off about that, you know, it was a quarter of a credit. So at that, right then we got in his car, we went over to the High School of Commerce, we went to the vice principals, we went to the advisors, and he was really irate about this. Like, why would this kid not be in college because he's a quarter of a credit short? And then when we added it up, we came to realize that I wasn't even a quarter of a credit short, I was a quarter of a credit over. And then no one wanted to admit to the mistake. So we went down to see his buddy, the superintendent of school, Mr. Negroni, and Mr. Negroni asked me to write a paper for him, which I respected that, and it was economics paper, and I did so, and he rewarded me with my diploma.
Anything outside of 3 points?
The Learning Tree for me was that foundation. You know, it was that security. It was like a safety, you know, a safety blanket. You know, you can come to the tree and, you know, the world outside couldn't really hurt you while you was there. And I'd always make sure we had food, and the refrigerator was always full. 7-course lunches, you know, chicken and rice and potatoes and French fries, and he just had so much food. He cooked it himself. You know, he was like our mom and our pop. You know, he taught us, and then he came downstairs and cooked lunch at the same time, you know, while handling all his other business during the course of the day. I think That's what our kids need most, a foundation, a place that they know is safe.
One of the most important things that I got from the Learning Tree was given to me directly from Arthur Sirota, without a doubt. And that is to remain sensitive to the needs of others and realize your obligation to give once you're in the position. And never forget the struggle of those who are come before you and those who will come after you. Without question, he couldn't have given me more.
The Learning Tree is in a constant state of evolution, and therefore the Learning Tree today is much different from what it was as a program in 1989 when we opened our doors. When we opened, we were a program very much focused on the needs of urban youth, community youth, and even neighborhood youth who had not finished high school and who were seeking to obtain their GED and perhaps go on to college or go on into a career or go on and get a job. And we did that very well for the first 2 or 3 years. And we started delving into the idea of creating components of getting people ready for college. But it was very clear that if we were going to become a serious college preparation program, then we needed to reinvent ourselves, strengthen our curriculums on the one hand, and form college partnerships on the other. And so by 1991, that's exactly what we started doing. The Learning Tree developed the Community Teachers Partnership Program because we realized after several years that while we were doing a good job and had good success rates with the students we were putting through our very small academies and programs, on the other hand, it was clear we were only serving the few, and the many wound up staying in public school, and half of those dropping out of school, not reaching their potential. The Community Teachers Partnership Program is designed to improve the effectiveness of urban public education by preparing and creating the opportunities for more Black and Hispanic youth and young adults to become teachers in their own communities in urban public school systems.
You all set, man? I remember being in the 10th grade, and this is what validates the Community Teachers Program, and having teachers from the community come back to the community. I remember coming into class hungry because at home there wasn't always something to eat. A friend of mine may loan me $1 or so. I go to the store, get me a candy bar, come and sit down and eat it. And I remember being told to put it away. I remember after football practice, hanging around at school because I didn't want to go home. And then I remember seeing counselors who pretty much chased me away from the building. Community teachers is an answer to that. We'll take kids from the community that want to teach. We'll send them to college in our community. They come back and teach 5 years. That's a graduating class. It's that simple. It's not hard.
And so it was a proud moment some years ago when Dr. Bromley, the president of Springfield College, Dr. Negroni, the superintendent of the Springfield Public Schools, and myself as director of the Learning Tree signed an agreement that all persons recruited by the Learning Tree who attended Springfield College, graduated from Springfield College, and were certified would be hired by the Springfield school system. And that's a real community solution to a community problem.
Springfield College is an urban college, and we sit right here in the middle of this urban neighborhood. And so it's in our best interest to help improve the neighborhood for not just the neighbors, but because so we can exist here in harmony with our neighborhood.
I remember a youngster who was African American and encountered the first African American teacher asking if this was a real teacher because she had never seen one. And I think those stories are all too often related to me about how youngsters view themselves. I think it's important for youngsters to see reflections of themselves.
The sticky strands have to match up with the other DNA strands.
The impact of teachers of color in the school system, I guess I'm probably pretty good at explaining that because I happen to be raised in the era of segregation, and of course all my teachers were African American because we were in segregated schools. It's a role model. The individual can be a role model for young people in the schools. Secondly is that some, particularly people of color, feel more comfortable in an environment where they look up and they can see a teacher that's the same color as they are.
Not only do we get the benefits of minority youngsters coming back into the community, but the larger community, the Anglo community, the white community, is able to see young minorities in a positive light. And I think we need to look at the big picture. It's not simply about getting a job for a person. It's getting a job where they're committed to it, where they help the community to grow, and where they show the rest of the community that when one provides the needed impetus and the needed resources, all youngsters can be successful.
The Learning Tree, along with other members of the Springfield community, founded the North Star Academy in September of 1996, Springfield's first charter school.
It's not North Star Academy Charter School. It's a non-profit school, you know, designed to teach young brothers and sisters, primarily Latino and Black, entrepreneurship, the means of starting your own business and, you know, selling your creativity. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things rely on your creativity, you know what I'm saying? The most richest men on the planet created something.
We service inner city students. People often ask, well, what's the definition for that? A lot of times people assume that that means minority students, and that's not the case. It's students who have grown up in an urban environment, and we make that distinction because they bring a different mentality into the classroom with them, a different attitude, different set of survival skills that they've learned in life. And it really takes a different approach in order to get the most out of those students.
Urban youth have overcome a lot of obstacles. They do so on a daily basis. They do so on a long-term basis. They have overcome a lot. They continue to face obstacles that would flatten the average suburbanite.
We have students that can't go to school for fear of their own lives. You know, they're being shot at. You know, nowadays, if someone doesn't like you, they usually kill you. You know, as well as, you know, they don't beat you up anymore. So we have students that are afraid to go to school.
All young people can be educated if one has the appropriate response to their needs. All too often, we forget that these young people have a host of issues that are not of their making. And some of them, thank God, they even come to school based on what their conditions are. If we begin to recognize what those conditions are and begin to respond with these alternative programs, we can have this success we've had with the Learning Tree with all youngsters.
Our curriculum, we create ourselves. There's no one standing over us telling us what we can and cannot teach our kids. We shop our curriculum, which is how we market our school. You know, we tell parents, look, do you want your son or daughter to learn about Columbus, or do you want your son and daughter to learn about Columbus? Because we're going to teach them about Columbus.
When the lives of the Arawaks have been left out of history and Columbus is still treated as a hero, you don't have an empowering curriculum. You have an empowering curriculum when people study the great achievements of the Egyptian and Mali kingdoms. You have an empowering curriculum when you study the lifestyle and the struggles of the Sioux and the Cherokee and the Cheyenne and the Apache. You have an empowering curriculum when you study the struggles in Central America, in Puerto Rico, when you study the culture of Latin America. That's an empowering curriculum. You have an empowering curriculum when young Black and Hispanic youth can see themselves through the eyes of the scientists and teachers and engineers and mothers and fathers and great people of Africa and Latin America and the islands. That's when you have an empowering curriculum.
I know my students. I care about my students. I get angry when they don't care about their education.
that this country will take care of those who cannot take care of themselves. It's in the United States Constitution. Am I right or am I wrong? How am I right? Who's saying I'm right? I'm just telling you this. You believe in me? Look it up. Look in them books. Look in your papers. I'm about to get upset because y'all not knowing this stuff.
I get real upset when they don't focus,
If I can't teach you, I don't need to be here.
when they don't want the education.
We rewrote the preamble of the United States Constitution.
I know what it's like to be supported. I know what it's like not to have support. I know how powerful it is to have an education now. I know how powerful it is to know self. I feel like I could raise consciousness. I think of myself sometimes as a spark. My wife told me that my life would be spent going from place to place, just starting fires.
In 1995, Learning Tree programs opened in Boston. A college partnership program formed with Wheaton College and a community teachers partnership program in collaboration with Northeastern University and Wheelock College is preparing urban youth to teach in Boston public schools. In 1996, the Learning Tree, in collaboration with Southeastern University, opened a program in Washington, D.C. The Tree also formed a partnership with the Higher Aspirations Academy to help prepare Washington, D.C. youth for their futures.
When we started, we were a program based in Springfield, and I'm proud of the fact that we were able to spread our wings and reach the youth of Boston and reach the youth of Washington in a program that started in Springfield, Massachusetts.
If I said what parents have to do with their young people from very early age till, say, about the 3rd or 4th grade is, one, make sure they are satisfied with who they are, make sure they know who they are, and then to have a vision for something. And then you begin to struggle, because nothing comes easy. It's, I think we mislead people by not really getting young people to fully understand that most things worthwhile you got to work for. They don't just come free and easy. And there's much greater satisfaction if you work real hard for something, because then the reward is even better.
Who needs some paper, man? Miguel, you need some? I see my future as a strong one, actually. You know, before I see my future as, you know, it could come to an end any day. You know, I had beef with people. I didn't care if they wanted to fight. You know, I walked around. You know, they walked around in search of me. You know, they could have took me out any day. You know, I didn't care. All right. The main question I asked you: what other countries or islands were formed from rebellious acts such as the? I cherish life, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to go out like that. You know, I see a good future for myself, my children. I'm trying to pave the way for them. So when I look at the future, I look at my children's future, actually, because everything I'm doing is for them and for myself, you know. No one in my family has ever graduated high school even, you know what I mean, for that sake. So I'm setting the trend and breaking the mold, you know. Being the first.
I like being a role model, you know. I like people to look up to me. I want people to confide in me and you know, allow me to help them, you know, where people helped me, because I didn't get to where I am by myself. You know, I didn't wake up one day in a burning bush and, you know, someone touched me on the forehead and it was time to go. You know, it took time and it took a lot of help.
I love to open a school of my own. In the city, in Springfield. I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. I feel safe, and the things that I'm doing are good for the world, good for society. I feel good when my son looks at me and says, my daddy's a teacher.
I have a philosophy that this is a very bountiful earth, it's a bountiful nation, it's a bountiful society, and that that bounty needs to be shared and spread through a system, not through charity or by giving or by some artificial form of distribution, which would only be temporary, but by systems, by philosophies, by cultures that have respect for all life, all human life, and all life. And with that kind of philosophy, if that was the kind of philosophy our government had, and indeed our society had, we wouldn't be having this interview in the first place, and we would have no need for a learning tree.
Young people still do want to educate themselves. It's a choice to be educated in this country. You can, or you don't have to be. And seeing young people that I've known all my life who fell off or for whatever reason were led down the wrong side of the street, whatever. Seeing them come back and taking control of their education and being at the tree early in the morning and leaving late, and you know, that restored my faith. That showed me that, yo, bro, you know, you might have a little bit, but you know, you need to go get the rest.
I see my future as a doctor in the doctor's office, doing surgery on somebody to save their life and help them.
Once I leave here, I'm going in the Marine Corps, and I'm going to be doing that for 4 years and taking up a college course in criminal justice. And when I get done with that, I'll be going in the Secret Service.
Most likely, I think I'll be a teacher, and I want to teach English.
I'm planning on graduating from here, high school diploma, going down south, go to college, about good 4 years.
So many things, man, so many.
Well, basically, the learning tree started me off at the environment to where, like, all high schools, because I had a negative, you know, look at them. Like, they don't really teach you, you can't get the individual attention you need. But North Star and the Learning Tree gave me a different, you know, feel for that. I believe now that high schools, they have potential now, so it's just changed me in a different way of looking at it. It got me wanting to learn, got me motivated in life. So.
I would like to become a cardiovascular surgeon.
I want to go to medical school after here, but I want to go to the Army. And I want to be a pediatrician on base.
Basically, since I've been here, I got here in '96, and I learned more here than I did in any other high school, public high school. So it done a lot for me.
10 years from now, I should see myself doing pretty well. And I'm gonna come back to the school and hopefully get a job in here so I can teach some of the kids what I learned and talk to them so I can help them out to make it where I'm at.